Well, good evening, folks. Hope you're well. If you're not, get better soon. Quickly make priority. Thanks for the kind comments in the previous videos. I try to keep them different. To stop the boredom setting in, you know how it is. There's nothing worse than watching someone's YouTube channel and talk about the same thing time and time again. Why bother watching any more videos? You know, a lot of people have a monotrack, don't they? So I try to keep them separate, but I'd like to see if you relate to me and see if we swim in the same pond on a lot of things. It's always nice. Misery loves company for a start. And it's a bit lonely on your own. You know, strange thing about loneliness, isn't it? But sometimes, folks, you know, even if you're in a minority of one, the truth is still the truth. And someone posh said that once. But it is true, isn't it? Even if you're a minority. I think it might have been Gandhi. I'm not sure if it was that profound. He probably heard it off somebody else. Nothing original about these lot. Gandhi actually was a bit of a PD. A bit of a paedophile on the cute. He liked young girls. He liked smacking the bottoms and doing what it did. Whatever goes on behind the tent. You never know, do you, with these people? They're all the bloody same, aren't they? You know, what's wrong with them? Well, we know what's wrong with them. And anyway, topic for this evening. I thought about it. It's very hard to think about topics to talk about to keep your active mind active and interested. But I shall say what I think about sometimes. I look at talking about being PDs. I'm not a paedophile. A paedophile is one. The definitions are so many, but if you show an interest in children, it's not because you're a paedophile, unless you show a sexual interest in children. But having had children myself, you know, you do become very protective towards them. And I am ever observant, you know. I mean, I had a daughter and a son. I had one of each. And you worry in different ways. But when I used to look at them asleep, these poor innocent little things, and that's what they were, I used to wonder, I used to almost, well, I didn't feel sorry for them in the respect that I knew that they had both loving parents and a nice home, and, you know, compared to other children, they had a lot. No, I did feel sorry for them, though. Because there's one thing I at the age of 57, which I am, 58 in July, I think with the experience that I've had in my life and the life I've had, would I want to go through the whole thing again? The answer is absolutely no. Absolutely not. Thanks very much. You could say that I'm bitter and twisted about my whole life. I am absolutely not. I just realised that for the most part it's been hard. And it's all relative, isn't it? You know, some people think that because they get cut a few hours back at their job and their overtime's been cut, of course, hard life, find it hard to survive. Do me a favour. You know, modern day man doesn't find it hard to survive. What we do find hard is when our luxuries are cut back through change of job, lack of a job, ill health, yada yada yada. You know, circumstances change. But quite frankly, in the Western society that we've got in Europe, particularly, very few, if any, people really do starve to death. A lot of people are homeless. That's true. And a lot of young people end up being homeless, but it is very much, quite frankly, drug-related, alcohol-related homelessness. You have to wonder, really, why they are, you know, on the streets sleeping rough. You find that there's a reason for everything, isn't there? But, you know, I can't be too critical of people who have hard times. People fall into alcoholism or drug abuse for various reasons. Many of them justifiable, but they pay the consequences. They do pay the ferryman in the end, don't they? But to the point of looking at my children thinking, but I want to be them. Well, eventually your children will leave home, and like little birds leaving the nest, off they go, and you fear for them and you worry about them, as my parents worried about me. I'm sure you did if you had children. If they leave home, or you're worried or fretting about them, you do. It's our job as parents, isn't it? And caring for loved ones. Hay fever's rife today, by the way. But would I want to do it again? No. I think it has been, as I say, it's relative, but I haven't found it easy. But the times I've found it particularly hard have been the last 10 years. Probably the last 10 years. One of the key culprits for that feeling, if you like, have been diagnosed of having coronary artery disease, which seems to be prevalent in my family lineage. That was an inherited thing more than anything. And the fact is, yes, I smoked. But apart from smoking, I didn't drink. I'm not clinically obese. I'm relatively slim. My height-weight ratio is fine. In fact, I'm slightly underweight. I've always been a skinny runt. In that respect, I don't have a beer gut, and I probably got the body of a teenager in the sense of build, because I've always been the runt of the litter. But I made up for it. Some people make a living using their brawn, their muscle. Others use their brain, and I use my brain. But some people don't use their brain and don't get on. And some people who are brawn merchants don't have a brain, so they don't get on. They just think that, sooner or later you see the brawn turns into fat, the muscle turns into fat, and they get old and they become non-productive, and then they're a big fat, literally zero. It all boils down to that, doesn't it? But the last 10 years have been hard because I'm getting old, and I think the jump from 30 to 40 was nothing to me. Oh, bring it on. I don't know what all the complaining is about getting old. It's 30 to 40. I'm 49. It's my 40th birthday. Yay, I'm fit as a flea. And then suddenly, the big 50. The tragedy is, of course, as you grow older, you may realise this, that you still think 18. Your mind rights checks your body cannot cash. And it's all very well to say, oh yeah, it's all in the mind, just do it. Feel the pain and get the gain. No, you'll feel the pain all right. But there are certain times, and I'm at one of them, where a couple of years ago, I would have no problem changing the disc brakes on the back of my car. None at all. I would just go and buy the disc brakes at Halfords or wherever, come home, jack up the car and spend a whole afternoon messing around with the disc brakes on the back of my car, which is a tedious task. It is, it's time consuming. It's an energetic thing to have to do. It's a fiddly thing to do. It is a strenuous thing to do. And I wouldn't attempt it now because I know my limits. And there are a lot of things now that I wouldn't attempt to do at the age of 50 that I could not even think about at the age of 40. And it sounds like I'm, a knackered old man, but I'm not. I'm just realistic. Who thought that by me at the age of 51, 51, I think, that, here, snow-covered pathway. I'll get that up before she comes home from work. Scoop, scoop, scoop. Ouch, what's that? Heart attack. I thought nothing. I thought I had the whole garden to sort out, the whole driveway. I was quite willing to do it. It was to say, I was willing, the body wasn't. And that's what takes the breath away. Can be quite literally. And it was a wake-up call. It was nature's way of saying, slow down, old man. You're at the autumn of your life. And now this is becoming the most frustrating part of my life, when my mind writes checks my body can't cash. And it takes some swallowing as a pill, I tell you. And I really don't look forward to, quite frankly, getting older and older and older. It is the most horrific thing about life. I accept that, yes, we're all going to die. But I shouldn't be having a pity party about all this, because even now at the age of 57, coming up 58, there are people that have died so young, with so much potential, for some other reason than health or whatever. But, think back to the Middle Ages. The average age of a man in the Middle Ages, if there was no wars, was about 30. Poor hygiene, poor medicine, it's bloody cold all the time, exposed to the elements a lot of the time, and poor diet, the pox, gonorrhea, syphilis, social diseases, you name it, scabies, infections, poor quality food, poor quality water, you name it. And a lot of reasons people died young historically. But now it seems that the big problem in society is that we've got a lot of people who are growing older, but they are fitter. It's taking us longer to get older, if you know what I mean. I consider myself in the autumn part of my life. But there are people who say to me, "Oh, don't be so bloody ridiculous. You're 57, for Christ's sake. Get a life. You're still in your midlife. You're having a midlife crisis." It's not a midlife crisis. But when you stand back and think, well, hang on a minute, the average age is 70 years and 10. Well, I have to be brutally honest with you. That means that so 70. So, well, let's assume I'm 55. Okay. So 60, that's 5, 70. I got 15, 20 years tops. And I know they're going to be difficult. For a start, I have to stop working. That's going to be hard. That's going to be really hard, because what do I do with this time then? What do I do with this time? I am one of these people who find it repellent, a horrible thought to be bored. I cannot stand being bored. Now you would say, don't be so stupid, there's so much to learn. How can you possibly moan about? Now I would say that to a younger person, don't be so stupid, there's so much to learn. But, well, quite frankly, I learn things because I want to do things and know them for the future use, etc. But what I foresee now is utter boredom, because all my life I've been a physical person. I've enjoyed physical hobbies. I've been mentally aware. I'm mentally citron. But now I find myself daydreaming a lot. I find myself reminiscing. Okay, I wishful think a lot. I think back at the times I enjoyed myself fly fishing, pike fishing, carp fishing. But now my best buddy isn't here anymore and I miss him. My son. Yes, he comes and visits and things, but he's got his own group of friends. He's got a life. But I'm missing my buddy. I'm terribly lonely and crave his company. And I think back to the great times. These are the times, you see, when we've got the children in our hands as our friends and we are their mentor, and it's all wonderful, wonderful times. If you have this situation, cherish every second of it. Trust me on this. Cherish him. Because one day they will leave your life in the sense that you are cast aside like a used sock. You really are. And yes, they phone up. And if there's things I want doing, he will do them. Don't do that, Dad. I'll do it when I get back. I'll leave it. Now leave it. And you think, how sweet. How sweet. I feel such an invalid. But I think everybody, every one of us, including you, will have a period in your life where you can be surrounded by people and be incredibly lonely. I've had periods of that. I've had periods at boarding school when I went to a new school, for example, surrounded by kids I didn't know, and yeah, get busy living, get busy dying sort of feeling, you know. How the hell do I make friends? It's all alien to me. And eventually, you see, that feeling passes as you settle in. But it's that horrific period of being new kid in town, new kid on the block, new face in the class, new bloke at work, who's the newbie. You know, this period of settling in, I hated it. And you just want it to be over, but you can't expedite the thing, can you? It's one of these things we have to suffer. The new kid syndrome, or the new one at work syndrome. You move to a new house and the new neighbours over there. At what stage do you stop being new? When somebody else moves in, maybe? Along the road, you are no longer the new ones on the block. And it's amazing, we just want normality back. But my normality is constantly shifting. Well, it has shifted quite a lot in the last few months. You know, my daughter left home, joined the military, Air Force. That was it. I still have my son as a conversation. You know, my wife talks to me, absolutely does. But, you know, you do want variations on a theme sometimes, and my son gave me a different perspective, and I felt useful for him because he used to hound me for advice, and I gave it, of course, sometimes unwarranted. But then you find that you've got an empty nest, and I suppose this is what I'm suffering from. I am suffering from emptiness syndrome. Got a nice house, really nice house, too big for us. What do? Move into a caravan just because it's me and her and 5 dogs? Well, the 5 dogs necessitate having a reasonably sized house. Got to have a big garden for them to play around in. You know, they are now our children, technically, the 5 dogs. But I want to downsize. I want to downsize to 3 dogs and maybe 2. Eventually, I don't really want to replace the ones as they shuffle off the mortal coil. I want to reduce my responsibilities, and that's why I almost become now a minimalist. Well, I am practically a minimalist. I have no attachment to anything possession-wise. I really don't. I'm not possessive about anything. If you want it, you know, you have it. Or I've done videos about this where I don't seem to have an opinion about anything now because quite frankly, nothing's that important to me. Nothing. The important things in my life have been achieved or they've left home. That's it. So, do I have a goal? Well, I have a goal is to remain vertical. But equally, the other goal I have is that I don't want to die. My family don't want me to die, of course not. But I don't see why I should have to let it be a natural decline to such an extent it becomes a decision that's taken out of my hands to maintain my life. This is why I'm a huge fan of dignitas. I think there comes a time in the affairs of men and women that we should be able to check out when we bloody well want, without consequence or legal consequences. And I only today was starting to think, having just buried my mother, well, incinerated my mother, quite frankly, looking at some of the things and reminiscing about things, as you do when both of your parents are suddenly gone, you realise rapidly that who's left? Me and 3 remaining brothers. That's it. And soon it'll be 2 and then 1, won't it? That'll be the end of us. not including my wife in that equation. I hope she lives a long, 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 long life as much as she likes. But I have to speak personally. And our lifespan is such sweet sorrow. Our short lifespan, isn't it? And we're really, a human being's life, in hindsight and looking back, is gone in a blink of an eye, isn't it? But at the time it's happening, it's rather strange. Good things happen quick and they're over quick. But the bad things take so long to get through. And then the memory of having them takes a long time to dismiss and bury. And you spend your time then worrying and fretting about whether there's any more bad times ahead, because they're going to be difficult to get over on. You know, so you worry about the worry that's gone, and you worry about the worry that may be. You know. So, the state is when I look at young children now, I think, my God, you've got so much ahead of you. I almost pity you. I almost pity the youngsters. Particularly now in the environment where there is simply corrupt governments. There's going to be huge wars pending that they will see and witness and may be part of, survive or not. They're going to be exposed to chemtrails, inoculations, shit food for the most part, a shit education for the most part. I needn't go through the litany of things that the government and the bankers will do to our children and our great-grandchildren. And I think, not for me. You know. And it is true. Whoever said this, I think it could be Twain. I've had the best of times. Was it? I can't remember now. Yeah, I've had the best of times. I've had the worst of times. That was written by Charles Dickens, wasn't it? And for me, I should take solace in the fact is that I've had a wonderful life. You know, when all things are said and done, and I have no reason to complain. Life has been good. And it's all relative, isn't it? No, you know, I haven't had the castle. I haven't had the luxury boats. I had a couple of luxury cars, but forget it. Okay? The material possessions are nothing. I've had the good fortune of going through my life and meeting my soulmate and having 2 wonderful children, and I should be so lucky. And I am. And I am so grateful for small mercies. Small mercies, well, I am in life, my life, exactly where I am today. Through everything I've thought and believed and done. That's as simple. I cannot blame anyone else. I'm not a victim of circumstance. I'm a victim of what I've created. I'm a victim of myself. I'm here today because of what I've done to date. That about sums it up. And same for you, by the way. But I started this brief video saying, looking at the children, has it all been worth it? Well, it's certainly been worth it for my children. Because they're alive. They're experiencing, my children having a marvellous time. They're both beautiful and fit and well and absolutely happy. And you know what? I don't care how miserable I get and how pissed off I get about things now. I just think, I look at them and it cheers me up. Because I'm so delighted that through my efforts and my wife's efforts and everything I've done to date, those two are the light of my life. They are the reasons. And the reason that I have to pat myself on the back and say, job well done. And it is a privilege for me and my wife when the children say, do you know, Mum and Dad, we couldn't have wished for better mums and dads. And both our children agree. My children are adults now, of course, 26 and 30. but they still hug us. My son still comes up and gives me a kiss, for goodness sake. My daughter kisses me. It's wonderful. And that's what makes it all worthwhile. With all its sham and drudgery, it's still a wonderful world. So I can simply get more pleasure now out of watching others and pass the baton on now, and get pleasure out of watching rather than pleasure out of doing. Sounds very voyeuristic, don't you think? But I spend a lot of time thinking. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but when somebody says to you, try not to think of anything. Shut it up. And it's this demanding voice in your head, me, myself, and I. You know, you've got a voice in your head because, you know, our Creator didn't want us to be lonely Billy No-Mays. We had to have somebody to talk to, so they gave us ourselves to talk to in the form of a voice that's in your head. The one, like, you know, little monkey on that, little devil on that shoulder and a little angel on that one. Do it, do it. No, don't do it. It's naughty. Go on, do it, do it. You've got this dilemma, haven't you? This, and it goes on in here. But sometimes you've got to shut the pair of them up and try and think of nothing. Well, I used to find that really hard. It's called daydreaming, isn't it? And I used to find daydreaming quite hard because my mind was always buzzing, man. But of late it's not. I daydream a lot. And it's a void. And it demands nothing. And I find minutes and sometimes an hour will pass. And I can't think for the life of me what I've been thinking about. Because it's been absolutely empty. It's been, I suppose you could say that as utter contentment. When I'm not hankering after something, I'm not worrying about something, there's just nothing to think about. I'm all thought out. I'm just me, and I'm just content. But in closing, I would just remind you of a little story you maybe knew. Of a little girl who went to a funeral of somebody she didn't know, an auntie. And she stood at the graveside crying as they lowered the coffin. And the parents of this young child said, afterwards they were walking away from the burial, they said, Jessica, why are you crying? You didn't really know Auntie that we've just buried. Why are you crying? She says, oh, I'm not crying over that person that's just died, Daddy. I'm crying for myself. He said, why? Why are you crying for yourself? What's the matter, little girl? As he knelt down in front of her. And she said, when I die, I'm going to miss me. That's why I'm crying. Because I know it's going to happen. I'm going to miss me. And now I can relate to that. You could say, well, I will miss me because I have some great talks with myself. I'm very agreeable to myself most times. And I miss my banter. I will miss my inner banter. Because we come into this world alone. We may occupy ourselves a little while, but we will go out alone. The question on my lips is, what will it be like? What will death be like? And somebody said the other day on a video, and I thought, what a great statement, what a profound statement. And it's something that never occurred to me. Well, I was born on the 23rd of July, 1961. And somebody said to me, where were you on the 20th of July? 1950. I said, I have no idea. He says, that's what death will be like for you. It's simple. We are only alive in the waking hours of our life. And if you want to know what it's like to be dead, try and cast your mind back before you came to see what it was like before you came. And that's why I'm going to miss me. I'm sure other people will miss me with a bit of luck, but I will miss me. Just like that little girl said at the funeral. Because me, myself and I, and you are unique. You are unique to you as I am unique to me. But now I know, and I have no fear of dying. And the only thing that's going to piss me off is that I'm going to miss my family, and I'm going to miss me. But it's the same for everyone, so I mustn't feel victimized. What do you think about that? Who are you going to miss the most? Your family? Or are you going to miss you? Well, probably a bit of both. I'd value your opinions in the columns below. Love you all. Take care. Catch you tomorrow, maybe.